Right, it's time to talk IPL again on this sleepy Sunday afternoon, quite hot though in Dubai, which feels like 40 degrees. Two teams led by Aussie captains, two teams that look like they're on contrasting trajectories. The Sunrisers, even without Bhuvneshwar Kumar, are showing signs of getting back on track, whereas the Royals have much to worry about. The arrival of Ben Stokes, though, can change the equation completely, or so the Royals hope. And so on Whirlpool presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. The arrival of Tom Moody does the same to this show as well, lends some much needed balance, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, there's a bit of balance. You've also got a bit of height coming to the equation.
Yes, 6'6", isn't it?
Yeah, just a tick over.
Enough oxygen up there for you?
I'm sitting, thankfully.
And still taller than me. But it's good that it's not evident on this digital video. Straight away, Tom, fair to say that these two teams are on contrasting trajectories?
Yeah, look, it's still early days, Manish. At the end of the day, I think Sunrisers have got a couple of important wins, and therefore it's given the team a bit of confidence. I still think they're a fair way away from playing at their best, but they're certainly getting points on the board, which is important. You know, they've played the 6 and won 3 of those 6, so they're making some inroads on that table. Where Rajasthan just seem to be stuttering a little bit at the moment. They've had some indifferent form as a team, and also some individuals within that team have had some real highs and some real lows. And they're only in a situation where they've just won the 2 games out of the 6. So this is a critical match, and I think it's a very, very evenly balanced contest too. I think both these sides are pretty similar.
Right, and in the searing heat of Dubai, I'm sure the blood pressures of the Hyderabad, of the Rajasthan Royals side will be in control, because Big Ben Stokes is back. Of course, we'll talk about the specifics a little later, but can Ben Stokes be the magic wand that can bring about a 180-degree turn in the Royals' fortunes?
Oh, look, he'll help. He is arguably the best all-rounder in the world at the moment. And there's no question his presence will be very much felt. More importantly, in the Rajasthan camp, they'll gain a lot of confidence with his presence. He also, with his quality as a cricketer, a pure top order batsman that has got a power game as well, which is all important in T20 cricket. But he's also, very, very useful with the 4 overs that he can offer. And they'll need every one of those overs, because he's actually come in, I understand, he's come in for a bowler. He also, with his quality as a cricketer, a pure top order batsman that has got a power game as well, which is all important in T20 cricket.
Quick update on the tops of Utah. It's a pitch that's only has glass on it. It's
every one of those overs, because he's
won the toss and they've chosen to bat
for a bowler. He also, with his quality as a cricketer, a pure top order batsman. Sorry, you seem to have a bit of a problem with the sound here. I can't hear your question. I'm just hearing my answers.
But he's going to put to live in an echo chamber. But we'll try and sort that audio out. I hope it gets in big time. What we'll do is we'll take a bit of a breather here. We'll sort this audio and come back on this show in just a bit. So stick around. We've got a lot more to talk about with Tom.
I think we're okay. I think we've sorted out the problem.
Excellent. Right. So we were talking about the pitch. We got a glimpse of it a little earlier. Hardly has any grass on it. The slowish wicket to bat on. No brainer really for Warner to win the toss and bat first.
Yeah. Look, it's interesting. He made the point at the toss that that he thought it was quite dry and it was a used wicket. So, and if that is the case, it will take a little bit of turn, but more importantly, it will slow down as the game progresses. So chasing will be difficult, particularly if Sunrisers manage to get a competitive total on the board. And probably a competitive total is going to be around that 160 range, I would think. And it's always hard chasing when a wicket does slow down.
Right, a couple of three changes for the Rajasthan Royals. Just the one change for the Sunrise Hyderabad. Vijay Shankar comes in, and young Samad misses out. The youngster from Kashmir, who's shown some spark, but looks like Hyderabad want to add a little more experience to their lineup. So Vijay Shankar comes in for Hyderabad, and Rajasthan Royals have made three changes. Andrew Ty, Mahipal Lomror, and young Yashasvi Jaiswal are out. Ben Stokes back is the big story, and so is Rayan Parag and Robin Uthappa. Now that's the lineup. Who do you see opening here? Do they bring Uthappa up top, or do they go with Smith or Smith at 3? Lots of options.
Yeah, look, they've got a lot of options there, and I think this is one of the challenges that the Rajasthan Royals have is just the personnel they've got in their top 6. There's a lot of that personnel fighting for 1 or 2 spots. There's not a balance there where you've got players that are used to batting in the middle order, or you've got players that are used to opening the batting. In that side, you could argue that, in that opening position, you've got Butler, Smith, Sanju Samson and Uthappa all really should be opening the batting, or best suited at that position. Worst case scenario, batting 3. So it does create a bit of a cluster around that top order. So that's something for them to work out. It's going to be intriguing to see who they open the batting with. You would think common sense would tell you that Uthappa would open the batting, given his history at the top of the order and his success at Knight Riders for many years at the top of the order. But I've got a bit of a hunch we might see Ben Stokes open. I just feel that they feel that giving him a chance at the top of the order, getting in, enables him to really have an impact in those middle overs.
Right. Very often numbers put things into perspective. Now, if you look at Ben Stokes' IPL numbers, you may not want to believe these numbers, because he hasn't had a great time at the IPL 2018. 196 runs, a strike rate of about 120. Last year, again, 9 matches, 123 runs. But these numbers are pre-World Cup. Now, post-World Cup, Ben Stokes became Big Ben, didn't he? So is it important to look at Ben Stokes without looking at these numbers? How do you put it in perspective?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to look at the numbers and really dig a bit deeper than just what those numbers are telling you. I think what is important is to recognise, when he has come into bat, what was the situation in the game? Did he have an opportunity to really impact the game or influence the outcome of the game? Those statistics are quite sore on the eyes, considering what price tag he comes with. Yes, that price tag, part of that is his marketability. He's a massive cricketing figure. So that franchises definitely take that into account when they're looking to buy players at the auction. But they also take equally, if not more, into account the consistency of their performance in the IPL. The IPL is a unique tournament, and there's a lot of players that are hugely successful in the IPL and thrive under that pressure. And there's certainly some that do suffer a little bit. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that Ben Stokes suffers under the pressure. All I'm saying is that what he needs to do is definitely raise his, runs scored and wickets taken to, I suppose, maintain his position as one of the leading all-rounders in the IPL.
You spoke about how Ben Stokes could be an option for the top of the innings as well. Now, he hasn't played cricket for a while. Rajasthan are going to be chasing. Sending him up the order, could that be too risky? Do you give him a couple of games before you make such a big move?
I think, if anything, that's the easiest role to play. Batting in the middle, coming in when you're under pressure with a run rate that's on the climb, more often than not, if he's coming in, let's say, for argument's sake, in that position 4 or 5, quite often the run rate is just inflated a little bit to around about 9 or 9.5, 10. It's a lot harder for a batsman to come in that situation than it is to come in at the top of the innings when there's field restrictions and he has a chance with pace on the ball to get settled and get in. So I think, if anything, it works in his favour, given he hasn't had any match time, if he was given the chance at the top of the order against having to come in very much in the middle of the game when the likes of Rashid Khan are in full swing.
But in trying to fit Ben Stokes at the top, would you then perhaps, in a way, mess around with what happens to Steve Smith or Samson or Uthappa? There's a reason Uthappa has been brought in. He's looked a pale shadow of himself in the middle order. He seems to belong to the top order. What do you do? Because in trying to fit Ben Stokes, you'll have to move around everyone else.
Well, when Uthappa's played before, he's batted at 5 and 6 for Rajasthan. And in recent games, Smith and Sanju Samson have batted 3 and 4. So really, Stokes is coming in, and if he does come in the middle order, it then asks either Sanju Samson, Smith, or Uthappa to come in to open the batting. This is, as I touched on a couple of minutes ago, I think this is one of the real challenges Rajasthan have, is that there's so many players that really need to be batting in that opening position. Butler's a lock. They're wanting him to open the batting, so it's just one slot that's available, and there's 4 players that want that slot, or 4 players probably want it, but also are better suited in that slot than a position down the order.
Right. But Tom, can Rajasthan Royals make the mistake of being naive enough to believe that once Ben Stokes arrives, all will be well?
Oh, look, no, I don't think they're going to be naive enough. There's enough experience in that camp to know exactly what's going on. As we've seen over time, not just this IPL, but over time, when you have a world-class player, which Ben Stokes is, when you have a world-class player come back into any competition, it doesn't take long for them to make the adjustment to start flexing their muscles and having an impact in the game. So I don't anticipate Ben Stokes taking that long to get into the game and have an influence. What we do know about Ben Stokes is he's a thorough professional. He would have done a huge amount of work in preparation for this IPL, even though it has been in a unique situation because of his personal circumstances being in New Zealand. But you can guarantee, he's as fit as he's ever been. He's had the time, practicing his batting and bowling. The only thing he's missing is game time. And that is a valuable component. But, he's going to start today and he's going to start getting his game time. So there's every chance the more time he gets out in the middle with bat and ball, the better the chances that Rajasthan Royals are going to have, because it is an enormous inclusion in their playing 11.
We on the outside would love a great story of turnarounds and comebacks, but what would this challenge do to him? I mean, he'd have spent the last 6 days in quarantine looking at his team struggling. Surely he won't be detached from the hype and the expectations around him. What do you think he's thinking at this stage?
I think he can't wait to get out in the middle and start playing. That's what, the top professionals have running through their veins. They're desperate to compete. They're born to compete. As I said, he's fit and bursting out of his skin, ready to go. He's going to be challenged with his fitness because, as you quite rightly said, it's very hot in Dubai and they're playing a mid-afternoon game. So it's going to challenge every player physically. But, I'd back Ben Stokes any day of the week to, conquer those small obstacles, because what we've seen with him over his career in all formats of the game is someone that's got an incredibly big heart, someone that's got a huge amount of physical capability and mental capability, and someone that is desperately passionate for a contest. And he's going to get all those opportunities over the next 40 overs.
Right, let's look at the Ben Stokes' impact on the bowling of the Rajasthan Royals. He does give Smith an extra option, but his numbers at the death aren't great. Where would you use him? Would you give him safer overs in his first IPL game this season, or would you say, look, you're the big man, you bowl for us in the power play and in the death?
Oh, look, no, I don't think you'd be saying that. I think that the asset that Stokes brings is a batsman that bowls, not a bowler that bats. So I would be trying to navigate his overs according to the situation of the game. I wouldn't be definitely earmarking him as someone that's definitely going to bowl in the power play or definitely bowl in the death, because I don't think he's a specialist at either of those things. I think he's just a good all-round bowler. But, I think the Rajasthan Royals also will recognise that he has lacked that sort of competitive bowling action where, when you're under pressure, getting your Yorkers right, getting your slower ball right, getting your lines and your lengths right, can be challenged when you haven't got that match practice. So I think they'll try to navigate his overs in a very, very careful way so he's not too exposed, so they get him into the game unharmed, if I could put it that way.
Right, we've talked about the Rajasthan Royals. Let's now move to the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Just the one change, VIJAY Shankar comes in, lending a bit of experience. When you look at this lineup, this bowling lineup, minus Bhuvneshwar Kumar, would that make you slightly nervous? No Bhuvneshwar, a crucial part of the tournament now beginning at the halfway mark. What do you reckon?
Well, Bhuvneshwar Kumar is a massive loss to the Sunrisers, no doubting that. He's been their leading fast bowler for a number of years. And the great asset of Bhuvneshwar Kumar is his ability to take wickets at the top of the innings in the power play overs with his swing. And at the end of the innings, he's very, very canny with his ability to shut down the game. So that's with his Yorkers and his knuckleballs and various slower balls that he's got on offer. So he is a big miss, but at the end of the day, every side in this tournament has had setbacks with players. So there's no point looking internally and, feeling sorry for yourself around the fact that, you've lost one of your premier bowlers. It's more about looking about solution, being a little bit more solution focused and about, well, what can we do? Who's then going to take that opportunity and play the role that Bhuvneshwar Kumar has done? And one of those players that's done that is Natarajan. Natarajan has been one of the standout bowlers for Sunrisers and one of the real surprise standout bowlers of the tournament so far. So where there is a downside, a negative, with losing a player with an injury, there's always an upside when another player steps up unexpectedly. So I think you can worry about the fact and the negatives and dwell on the negatives, but I think it's more important to look at the positives. And another positive for Sunrisers is the inclusion of VIJAY Shankar. He's been out injured the last few games. He's a player that's got international experience. He's a player that's got IPL experience. And he's a player that can bring both the bat and ball skill to the Sunrisers' top six. So it gives them a little bit more depth in their bowling and gives them a little bit more flexibility with their options with the ball. But it also gives them a batsman that has got that sort of maturity and experience that I talked about. So VIJAY Shankar is a massive inclusion for the Sunrisers. He's a gun fielder as well. On the big ground in Dubai, that'll be absolutely vital as well. The fact that they've got a very versatile fielder both in the inner ring, and once those power play overs are finished, he generally holds down key outfield positions.
Very often teams make changes basis it's either an injury or a tactical move, but in this case, do you smell a sense of desperation to get Samad out before it's too late? What is it telling young Samad? Because he's played, a couple of games. Is it a bit hard on that young man?
Yeah, look, it is hard on him. But at the end of the day, VIJAY Shankar's fit. So, you've got to pick your best 11. He's had a good opportunity. He's played probably more games in the tournament to this point than he would have ever expected when he first arrived in the Sunrisers camp. So he's had some exposure, he's had some experience, he's had a couple of moments to treasure, and he's had a couple of moments that he needs to reflect on. Like any young player, those experiences are really important. But what's even more important is what he has taken from that exposure and how he can be better prepared when he comes back into the side. And that can happen at any stage through form, injury, team balance. Anything can happen. So he needs to be ready to fire when his opportunity presents.
Right. Let's now talk about a bit about the opening. The Hyderabad Sunrisers have won the toss. They will bat first. Just the right conditions for Warner and Bairstow to go out all guns blazing?
Yeah, look, put it this way. Rajasthan Royals will be very aware that they need to break this opening partnership. It's shown over the last season and a half to be a formidable partnership. And they'll be very keen to try to get into the Sunrisers middle order as quickly as possible. The other point is Bairstow is, striking at well over 150. So if they can see the back of Bairstow earlier, it also puts pressure on the Sunrisers run rate. So it is a key partnership. what is going to be very interesting to see what new ball options Rajasthan are going to use against the Sunrisers. You would think, and you'd certainly hope, that Jofra Archer will be raring to go and taking that new ball and possibly bowling at least 2 overs in the power play to see if he can have an impact at the top.
Right, let's now talk about their number 3 and 4. Manish Pandey has had a few starts at number 3. There's Williamson as well. Would you tinker with that combination? Because Pandey does play a little lower down the order when he plays for India. But in this lineup, Pandey 3, Williamson 4 for you, or do you have another plan?
Oh, look, it's a difficult one. There's no doubt Kane Williamson is a world-class player, and I think probably deserves the right to bat 3 in front of Manish Pandey. But Manish, I know that he's had a couple of lean innings of late, but he's actually done pretty well in that number 3 slot. If you look at his statistics for the Sunrisers in the last year, when he's held down that number 3 position, he actually has done pretty well. And his strike rate is also quite good. One thing that I would consider is having them both padded up, ready to go. And depending on whether Warner or Bairstow is the first to go, putting in the batsman that really complements the combination out in the middle. So for argument's sake, if Bairstow was the first wicket to fall, I'd be inclined to take Manish Pandey and let him go in at number 3 and ask him to go out there and just express himself and play that free-spirited game. But if Warner gets out, I'd be inclined to let Williamson go in at number 3, purely because you've still got the power hitter and the urgency around Bairstow's game out in the middle, and you've got Williamson who can complement that by just knocking the ball around, making sure Bairstow gets the strike that he needs.
But look, is it a case of Pandey saying, look, I want to bat 3? Is it management's call? Where do you think this decision has come from? Because Kane Williamson, isn't he?
Oh, no, it's management's call. It's got nothing to do with Manish Pandey. At the end of the day, David Warner, Trevor Bayliss, the coach, VVS Laxman, Matai Murali-Dhuran, all part of the think tank at Sunrisers now, and they would be making the call on what they feel is the best option. Ultimately, they'll be making the recommendations, and the final call will come down to both the captain and coach. So, as I said, it's sort of from a player's perspective, they generally are given a certain role within the side, and they're asked to play that role as best as they possibly can. And I'm sure that's the case with both Williamson and with Manish Pandey.
If we were to keep number 3, 4, 5, 6, that conversation aside, what's the ideal time for a Pandey and a Williamson to come into bat? Of course, it depends on how well the openers do. But what over or what zone do you think is ideal for a Pandey and a Williamson to come in and bat?
The 19th over. It's obviously you want Warner and Bairstow batting as long as possible. So there's no ideal time, because you've got your 2 best power players at the top of the order having an impact. So the longer they can bat, the better. But I think, as I've tried to explain, I think both Williamson and Pandey are 2 different types of players, and I think they bring 2 different styles of opportunities to the playing 11 in that top order. We saw the other day that Williamson's more than capable at the back end of the innings. I think he scored 20 off 10 balls. So I think the persona around Williamson as being, more of a conservative test player that has got limitations. I think we need to lift our blinkers away from our view on Kane Williamson and understand that he's actually a player that's got many, many different skills and many, many different gears that he can shift through according to the game situation.
Right, just a quick one on Warner opening. Jofra Archer did trouble him in that bilateral series back home, 3 ODIs, 3 20s, and Archer got Warner out 5 times. So short, straight delivery to Warner, is that the way to go for Archer?
Yeah, look, you can guarantee that David Warner would be fully aware that Archer has just in recent times had the upper hand against him. But then again, this is another tournament, another environment, and Warner, knowing Warner, will want to make sure he gets back the authority against Archer. So don't be surprised if Warner goes quite hard at Archer just to try to sort of assert his authority on that contest. I can't see Warner being conservative against Archer. I'd imagine he'll go after him to put Archer under pressure instead of him being the individual under pressure.
I'm sure if we carefully look through Jofra Archer's old tweets, there might be something on what he'll do against Warner in this game. But it's been that kind of IPL where we're all having to enjoy just on television, no fans there, or program crowd audio as well. Now, such are the times we live in. But so what if you can't be physically present in Dubai? We've got some stunning visuals for you of the oasis of opulence and extravagance in the middle of the desert. Watch and marvel at it, because watching is the new everything. No fans. It's a bit tough on players and on spectators. But Tom, would you say the crowd always the 12th man or woman?
Oh, absolutely. The crowd plays such an important role in professional sport, and it hasn't been until the last, I suppose, 6 to 10 months where sport like cricket has really recognised the importance of the spectator. But I suppose the beauty with technology, we can still bring the spectator very close to the action, whether it be through the digital format that we're working with, giving them insight to the game, but also the great pictures they get on the television screens. And, they do present it so well that at times it feels like you're in the desert watching the cricket.
Right. Hyderabad batting first. A quick one, Tom. What score do you think they're looking at?
I think 160. I think 160 would be a good score, particularly given it is a used wicket and it possibly will slow down. So I think initially their target will be 160. Anything north of 160 is a bonus.
Right. Ben Stokes back for the Royals. We'll see how much of an impact that has on the Royals. It's an interesting matchup led by two Aussie captains. We'll have Tom Moody, the other Aussie, with us at the end of the first innings right here on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket 4 T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. See you then. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.